There's now growing thought that the Chicago Bears could actually stand pat at the trade deadline. Would that be the right move for the Chicago Bears? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Before we get into that, I want to talk a lot about the defensive line for the Chicago Bears. We're going to get into all that, plus a little bit of the mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So we're going to talk about the Adam Hoge and his comments on the Bears could possibly standing pat at the trade deadline. But before we get into that, I want to talk about this defensive line. One of the things that a lot of the speculation around the Chicago Bears is trading for a defensive lineman. But I want to talk about how good this defensive line has been and how the players that the Bears have acquired in DeMarcus Walker and a player in which they bet on heavily in Javon Dexter has really stepped up hugely for the Chicago Bears team. The first thing I want to talk about is DeMarcus Walker. Right, I want to get into that. DeMarcus Walker, when he came to the Chicago Bears, we knew we were getting a versatile defensive lineman that could play inside and outside and what that could really add to the Chicago Bears team. Now, of course, over that time, we've added Darryl Taylor, we've added Austin Booker, Javon Dexter took a major leap. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but I think DeMarcus Walker deserves to be a higher part of the conversation than what people are making him. Now, I want to make it clear in this. The sack numbers aren't necessarily there for DeMarcus Walker, and we're going to talk about how he's still making an impact even without that sack number. Him and Montez Sweat are getting tremendous pressure on the quarterback when it comes down to it. When we signed DeMarcus Walker, his career high in snaps was 426, and his highest rate of snaps was 51%. When you look at it so far, DeMarcus Walker played 66% last season for the Chicago Bears, and so far this year, he is playing on 80% of the defensive snaps. Now, that, of course, is because of the way Eric Washington likes to rotate in that defensive line, but also the versatility that DeMarcus Walker is bringing to this team. His ability to play inside and out, be solid in the run game on the outside, better in the passing game on the inside. When he's lined up as a defensive tackle, we're able to take the advantage of DeMarcus Walker and what his skill set really brings to the Chicago Bears team. And when you look at it as well, everything's up for DeMarcus Walker. He has a 16.8% pass rush win rate right now. And again, the sacks aren't there, 1.5 sacks on the year. But what you're seeing from DeMarcus Walker is how he's putting pressure on the quarterback, how he's forcing quarterbacks to get outside the pocket, how he's forcing them to make decisions in their throws a little bit earlier than what they would want to, right? Him and Montez Sweat are doing an adamant job of that. And so DeMarcus Walker has come into the Chicago Bears team. And when you look at it last year, his win rate was at 10.8%. He's up 6% in a pass rush win rate. That's a significant jump, even with the heavier workload that he's having on top of that. Also, he had a 6.2% run stop win rate and an 8% missed tackle rate. This year, he's up to 8.3% on a run stop rate, and his missed tackle rate is down to 5.9%. He's making more plays. He's doing that. He's missing fewer plays, but he's also taking advantage of the opportunity that's in front of him, and he's helping this team. I know a lot of people, and I had a conversation with a guy in the comment section a couple of days ago, maybe been a week ago or so at this point, and he said, well, to compete in the NFC North, we need to get more sacks. And I get what you're coming at with that, but there's something to be said about the way that we're pressuring quarterbacks, right? I've said it a lot, like we are top 5 in the NFL in the pressure rate, but in the bottom 2 in the NFL of blitz rate, right? That's tremendous pressure that we're getting in. If you're like me, you like to hope at least that Matt Eberflus and Eric Washington are practicing some strategy. As long as they're able to keep getting the pressure that they're getting without blitzing, they should keep that in their back pocket. Blitzing is always an option there, right? I want to be clear there. And they are, I think, going to blitz more. I wouldn't be surprised if over the last 8 games of the season where the pressure really sticks up for the Chicago Bears, that we're blitzing a lot more than what we have so far through our first 6 games. I would not be surprised if our blitz rate almost doubles when it comes down. We could double it and still be only in the middle of the pack of the NFL as far as blitz rate, right? But keep that in your back pocket. Strategize, right? Because teams right now don't have a lot of tape on this season on how you're blitzing with this core that you have here. So that's going to be another benefit. But DeMarcus Walker has been a huge acquisition for the Chicago Bears. And you really just can't overlook how much that he's bringing to this Bears team. And he's helping players like Darrell Taylor. He's helping players like Gervon Dexter. He's helping these guys be able to be in situations where it best suits them just by the nature of him and what he's able to do and how he's able to put pressure on quarterbacks and be solid in the run game as well. DeMarcus Walker is having a tremendous season. And when you look at the fact that we're paying him a little over $8 million as well, right? And next year, he actually goes down to only a 5.9 cap hit for the Chicago Bears. When you look at that, the value that we're getting out of DeMarcus Walker has been tremendous, right? And I understand a lot of the criticisms of Ryan Poles and his acquisitions of offensive linemen, namely Nate Davis, the Chase Claypool signing, right? But when you look at how like Kevin Byard, and we talked a lot about Byard a couple of weeks ago and what he's meant to the Chicago Bears team since he's come over here. When you look at the acquisition of Byard and how that's helped this Bears team, right? And how that's helped the secondary hugely. DeMarcus Walker, these are two guys that we got on extremely value contracts that are just tremendously helping this team be the elite defense that we've seen through at least this part of the season. Now, I'm one to admit, tests are just starting for the Chicago Bears. We got the biggest tests are ahead of us, not behind us when it comes down to it. So that's something you got to look at as well when it all comes to it and you're talking about these things. But overall, I'll say this, right? DeMarcus Walker and what he's brought to this team has been tremendous. And then when you pair that with the next player that we're about to talk about, in Javon Dexter, listen, when the Bears let Justin Jones walk, right? And you look at what Justin Jones did last year, getting 4 sacks, especially after the acquisition, 4.5 sacks, most of that coming after the acquisition of Montez Sweat. Letting Justin Jones go was always going to be a bit of a risk for the Chicago Bears, right? But Javon Dexter has more so than shown he was ready. And that's where he didn't play a lot his rookie season. He just didn't. He didn't play a huge number of snaps his rookie year, but he stepped into this in his second year and has hit a tremendous leap. And that's where you can't always judge a player by their rookie year. For those that were judging Caleb Williams by that first 3 games, keep a lookout for that. But when you look at Justin Jones last year, what he did for the Bears, he had 170 pass rush attempts and 94 run defensive snaps through the first 6 weeks of this season last year. So far, Javon Dexter has 134 rushes and 94 snaps against the run last season. Again, Javon Dexter has stepped into that. He also has an 11% pass rush run rate, an 8.7 pass rush productivity score. Justin Jones had, he also has 18 pressures with 4 sacks and 6 QB hits. When you look at Justin Jones last year, over that same time frame, he only had a 5.5 pass rush run rate at this point last season, and he had a 4 productivity score. Justin Jones is doubling up basically everything that Javon Dexter is doubling up everything Justin Jones did in the entirety of his season last year. You look at the 4.5 sacks in totality last year. Javon Dexter is only a half a sack away from matching that. The bet that the Chicago Bears made, and I get it, Ryan Poles deserves criticism for some of his moves, right? In no way am I saying that Ryan Poles is this perfect GM that gets everything done, but the calculated risk that he did take, right? And I get it. People now will look at it and say, hey, it made sense. It just made sense to go out there and not re-sign Justin Jones and expect Javon Dexter to make that leap. Not every team would have done that, right? And then when you look at this and pair it really, when you look at the Bears making the decision to get Darnell Wright, right, and passing up on a defensive tackle last year that everybody said that the Bears should have went out and got, and I understand that, right? I want to make no mistake about it. I understand that Jalen Carter he's a monster, right? But you look at getting Darnell Wright in that offensive lineman and what the Bears decided to do there, right? When you look at some of the players around that Ryan Poles wanted to tackle, right? When you look at some of the other players that were drafted around where Darnell Wright went, some Peter Skoronsky, right, who is more of a guard than a tackle, right? And that's where the Bears kind of, it was debated, should the Bears have gone after that? And Ryan Poles wanted to focus on the tackle position, where I guess now you can make it look at and say, hey, maybe you could have got a guard. Maybe then we wouldn't have to rely on Nate Davis, which he was already signed to that point anyway, right? But then you look at something like, as well, like Broderick Jones, another player that was drafted around there, right? He was more raw than Darnell Wright, but again, he had high potential. But Darnell Wright has been better so far, right? When you look at it, when you look at Harrison as well, like, and what he's done for the Jaguars, like what Ryan Poles did by passing up a defensive lineman, getting Javon Dexter later, getting Darnell Wright, who's back to playing pretty good here recently. Ryan Poles made a good decision there. And it wasn't a popular decision, right? I think that a lot of Bears fans, we're still looking at it. And I said it, everybody's going to always look at the Jalen Carter, the Javon Dexter comparisons and all that type of thing. And when you really look at their seasons, right now, Javon Dexter's having a much better season than Jalen Carter. A considerably better season than Jalen Carter, really, when you look at all things even. Now, yes, Jalen Carter had 6 sacks his rookie year. Javon Dexter didn't, but that's why when you look at draft picks that you draft, players that you draft, even when you look at signings, you look at them initially, but then you also have to look at the long-term value of it. And what Ryan Poles has gotten with long-term value out of this Javon Dexter draft pick, it's been huge, right? And then we're barely really scratching the surface. The potential of Javon Dexter was always there. And Ryan Poles and many other Bears fans saw it. And now, hey, listen, Javon Dexter's proven that to be a big, important decision for the Chicago Bears. But then he made another one, right? We're staying on the defensive line. We're going to get into the trade talk, but we're staying on the defensive line. Austin Booker has really stepped up a lot in the last couple of weeks, playing more and more, right? When you look at Austin Booker, he played 9.4% of the snaps in week 1. 14.3 in week 3. He didn't play 32% in week 2, but then he's been over 23% each of the last weeks. Not Javon Dexter. I'm still on Javon Dexter. Austin Booker is playing more right now because he's helping this team. When you look at it, he has 40 pass rush snaps, 12 defensive run snaps, and because the Chicago Bears are forcing teams into more clear passing downs, you're just seeing Austin Booker play more and more. Now, the stat line of Austin Booker hasn't really been there, right? But we always knew that Austin Booker was raw, right? And Austin Booker's long-term success and outlook on this Bears team is always going to be more important than what it. Now, he flashed some things. Like, Austin Booker showed some shit in preseason, make no mistake about it, right? But I think that when you look at Austin Booker, the fact that he's getting out there, he has 1 sack on the year so far, 8 solo tackles, right? 9 total tackles, and the fact that he's out there in clear passing downs and that the Bears are trusting him, that just shows that development. And Austin Booker could very well do something similar to Javon Dexter, where we talk about such a clear leap from year 1 to year 2, right? And so I like that Austin Booker's out there. I like that he's getting snaps. I like that he's playing more and more. And as the Bears and the defense is playing better and forcing teams to be more one-dimensional, you're going to see Austin Booker out there on clear passing downs, right? You're just going to see it. And so the young 21-year-old defensive end that we're trying to develop things like that, Austin Booker is playing more and more. And I think that shows that faith that we're having right now in Austin Booker. And, again, we're still being very controlled in how we use him. And so don't allow whether the numbers or whatever else that we're looking at really distract you from the point that the Bears are being very intentional about how they're developing Austin Booker. And I think that that's a great thing to see in this as well. Being very intentional about how you're developing players is important, right? Not putting too much on them too soon. Building up that confidence in them. Seeing what you have in them so then you can add more to them in year 2. That's what we're seeing from the Chicago Bears team. I think that's a great thing to do. Now that we're done talking about the defensive line, let's get into what I know everybody's ready to talk about, and that is what the Bears should do at the trade deadline. Now, Adam Johns and Hoge, I should say, had a interesting conversation over in The Athletic, and they said this. Here's the thing. The Bears can be buyers and sellers. It wouldn't surprise me if the team moved running back Khalil Herbert or guard Nate Davis for draft picks. It also wouldn't surprise me if the Bears traded some draft capital for help on the defensive line. Standing pat feels right, though. The Bears opened the 2024 draft with the first-round pick and 2 in the second. It's best to keep those picks for a real investment in the trenches on both sides of the ball. You can always improve your team and your roster. It's very difficult roster to make. As Ryan Poles said, I think they're open for conversations. I don't see them being terribly aggressive. Now, I'm sure that there are going to be some Bear fans that react to that, especially after having a week of hearing the Max Crosby, the Myles Garrett, all those type of things, right? The Bears being connected to this name, the Bears being connected to that name, all these type of things. Hell, we saw D-Hop move to the Kansas City Chiefs that went down today, right? And so when it comes down to that, if the Bears stand pat, is that going to garner some reaction from Bears fans? And yes, right, because a lot of Bears fans right now have this thought process, and I'm not saying that it's wrong, but look at it and say, well, if the Bears really want to compete, if they really want to make their move, especially in NFC North, You have to make a move at this trade deadline. And again, like I said, I understand that mindset, but I was the one that said, hey, the Bears may hold on to their picks. They may decide to hold on to their picks because they may want to decide to do something more long term than necessarily put in or give up a second round pick to get a Max Crosby and to be paying that money and to put themselves in a cap situation. Now, make no mistake about it. If they made a move for Max Crosby, as I said in yesterday's episode, I'm going to jump for joy. I'm going to be absolutely ecstatic about this team being that aggressive to make that type of move, to go out there and get a move that clearly indicates that they are trying to move through these playoffs, that they are trying to win this division. I would absolutely love that, right? And while the Bears were recently linked to a player like Carl Granderson with the New Orleans Saints, this is a guy who has 3 sacks so far in the year. He had 8.5 sacks last year, 5.5 sacks the year before that. This is a 27-year-old player that you could end up getting without giving up. I think the key thing is the level of deal that the Bears make, right? And the key thing is not being overly aggressive. Now, if the Bears do move Nate Davis and or Khalil Herbert, I think that draft capital may inform what the Bears are willing to give up to go out and get somebody to help shore up this defensive line, right? And you also look at the offensive line, right? There are players out there, the Wyatt Taylors, the Brandon Sheriffs, the guys that are out there that also will reportedly be gotten for 4th or 5th round picks. Like, those are the level of moves that the Bears make I'm not mad at. But the upper echelon level, elite moves, right? The Max Crosby moves, we could very well see the Bears just not make those type of moves because they want to have the draft capital that they have. Right, Crimson, who's one of the commenters here, is a guy who constantly says, and he's right? This isn't me coming. That's my brother. It's not me coming at him. Right? Is that, Ryan Poles, he makes moves every trade deadline, so we should expect that, and that's right. But I think it's the level of moves. Right? We've seen basically the team give up some 2nd round picks, 4th round picks, things like that. Right? And so with where this team is right now, and the fact that some of our biggest tests are in front of us, will that force Ryan Poles to be aggressive? And that's the question that you have to ask here, right? I can see a world in which Ryan Poles does stand pat. And if he does, that shows a confidence level of what this team has. And then the fact that as the competition increases, that this Bears team is going to be able to keep up their level of performance against that level of competition increasing. And if he does make a move and he does make a swing for it, nobody's going to be mad at him making a clear move that means that this team is trying to win the NFC North. Take the North and never give it back. Right? That's a phrase that a lot of people keep going to. And I understand that wholeheartedly, right? So we'll end up seeing what the future holds for this Bears team, what they decide to do. But there is now that growing thought that the Bears could end up staying pat at the trade deadline. And we'll see what comes along with that, right? Again, let me know what you guys think down below. I want to hear from you guys on this one, right? When you look at the Chicago Bears, and if they do stand pat at the trade deadline, is that the right decision, or do you look at that and say, hey, this is wrong, we should not do this, we need to go out there and be aggressive, these other teams are being aggressive, teams that are above us and better than us are being aggressive, so why should we not, as we're trying to make our move? Let me know. It's really a thing versus the right now versus the future, right? And that's really what this conversation is about. Do you make the move right now and give up future assets, or do you keep your future? Because keep in mind, too, even if the Bears don't make a move now, they could still make a move at the draft with some of their, or before the draft or in the offseason with some of their draft capital as they get a look, go through the draft process, get a feeling who's going to be around in that 2nd round, things like that, and then still try to acquire a big name. So it's kind of the right now versus the long term, and Bears fans aren't patient. And I'm not saying they necessarily should be patient because guess what? We've gone through some shit. So I'm not mad at anybody who wants to see the Bears be aggressive right now. But with that said, we got one voicemail that I want to get into. This one's from Barry. Let's go ahead and play that now.
Hey, it's Barry here. Listen, I know I still owe you guys the roast. And what I think I'll probably do it at the end of the year to celebrate whatever the fuck is about to happen down the stretch. But fellas, I wanted to talk about the elephant in the room here. And I'm talking about this skinny little elephant in Washington. He wears number 5. I am talking about the one and only the Pepsi Boy that's going up against our beloved Bears and our sweet Prince Caleb Williams this Sunday. Given he's healthy, fellas, and by the time this episode drops, we should have a better picture. But right now, I said this coming into the year, that yeah, the kid throws a pretty big ball. He's got wheels on him for sure. He's skinny Justin Fields, who's a little bit better as a processor. But fellas, here's the thing. If he tries to play this game, and he's wearing that big bulky flag jacket, you know the one I'm talking about, he's going to get lit up, fellas, because he doesn't know how to slide. He he wasn't on Hard Knocks doing slip and slide with Caleb and the boys. He doesn't know how to not take hits, fellas. Could you imagine? Well, first of all, he likes to run out to the right and throw to the right, fellas. That's what he does. You know who likes to line up on the right-hand side for our Chicago Bears? Montez Sweat with his 4.41 speed. Jalen Johnson with his fucking 29 passer rating or whatever the fuck he says, fellas. So I think it's a bad matchup for Jaden, and he's not going to want to run because if he does make it to the second level, we got a big, fast, alien-looking motherfucker named Tremaine Edmonds that will lay the wood on him, fellas. He's going to fucking crush it. And listen, I got nothing wrong with Jaden Daniels personally. Nothing like that, fellas. But the guy's built like a twig. You know he had rocks in his pockets when he weighed in at the combine, fellas. That's how he hit 205. Or with pro day, whatever it was. But what he really did was he drank like 2 gallons of water. That's 8 pounds a gallon, fellas, to get to 205. And by my math, that means that he can weigh no more than 190 pounds, or whatever, 85 kilograms, whatever the fuck it is, fellas. But he's a little twig, fellas, and I want him to play. I want it because I want Caleb to personally put an end to the national media stroking their little fucking pricks, fellas, talking about, oh, the Bees picked the wrong guy again. Get the fuck out of here. Here is one free pass to suck my ass, media. Caleb is the guy. He's our guy. He's the guy that's going to bring a Lombardi trophy to Harris Hall, fellas. I can see it. The future's bright. Roman Doomsday, by the way, fellas, future WR1. He is getting open left and right. And then imagine DJ is wide receiver 2, Cole, the Keenan, Swift. Oh, goodness, fellas. But anyway, Chicago up. But don't forget this time, too bad.
First of all, Barry, you're hilarious because here's what I'll say on that. First of all, you said Tremaine Edmonds laying the wood on him. That's wild, my boy. That's crazy. That's a crazy. No pause, no Bobby, no Diddy said in that at all. You just came right out and was like, Tremaine Edmonds is going to lay that wood on Jaden Daniels. That's crazy, my boy. That's crazy. But no, here's the thing. I do think the Bears would have done or will do a good job at containing Jaden Daniels if he plays. Now, that is looking more and more slim as the days goes by. But here's the thing. I still play this voicemail even now to say this. I'm not somebody who wants to see my team face off against weaker competition. I want my team to see how they measure up against a team that's fully healthy. I want to see how my team measure up against the best of the best. Make no mistake about it. If we face off against a team like the Niners who have their own injury concerns, hey, listen, we're going to take advantage. We're not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, hey, we're going to take it easy on you because you're missing your guys. No, if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, if Mariotti's in there, we're going to try to kill his ass, right? But I'm just somebody that when you go through and evaluate, I just want to see my team measure up against the best the other teams have. That's whatever that team is, right? I want to see the best of what they have to offer to be out there because when we beat you, I don't want no questions. I want to eliminate any and all questions by the national media, by other fan bases, by anything. I want to see the best of the best out there. And I hope that we put our best of the best out there as well, right? That's what I want to see. But overall, the way that this Sunday goes, regardless, is going to be fun. We're going to be locked in. And, it's going to be exciting, man. But make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.